This week's channeled message from Isla, the mother of creation, is helping us. She's giving us a guided experience to help us heal fear. So, welcome back, you guys. It's so good to have you here. Thank you so much for joining me. And those of you who are new, welcome. My name is Ann Tucker. I am a trance channel. I channel both from the angelic realm and I channel from the mother of creation. She has called herself Isla, and she is the mother of all souls. So, and this week's message is it's beautiful and it is an easy experience, I would describe it, where you can close your eyes for a moment, go internal. And she likes to teach us through showing us rather than just telling us. So that's a lot of how she's been showing me in meditation as I strengthen my connection with her. Especially in the beginning, it was all experiences where she would take me on a journey and show me what she wanted me to learn. And so here, that's what she's doing for us, is she is showing us where our fear sits and how to come into a more unified state. So it's a gorgeous experience. I think you guys are going to love it. And if you enjoy healing in this way, where it's very personal, it's about you and your experience, come and join me for Soul Convergence. It's my deepest healing process, which starts, we only offer it twice a year. It starts coming up here on February 7th. This is a process that's guided by the angels, and it helps you to heal. It helps you bring balance to your masculine and feminine energy, which is exactly what we need to do as we move into the new state of consciousness. So it works on healing the masculine and feminine from the masculine perspective, and then it goes into healing the masculine and feminine from the feminine perspective. So it's a really beautiful process. There are some live sessions and then also recording sessions, so you can do it at your own pacing. And you're guided through it. You have a soul convergence guide to help you throughout the process, because it's really about you having an experience of your own, of understanding that at the end of the day, we are all our own healer, but the facilitation, helping us to move through it, can be critical, can be really, really helpful in helping us to reach, especially those really, really difficult layers of healing that come in. The critical wounding really happens between the womb and age 7. And that's actually where most of my biggest wounds were created, was actually in the womb. And how would I have accessed that without the help of the angels? It's not something that you can get to through memory or through talking. It's really, we need something to help us get into that deeper subconscious layer, and that's what this work does. So if you'd like to join us, we start February 7th. There is also, if you'd like to hear more about it, there is a video, a live I just put on my channel, which is AnnTucker.com. If you go to that channel, or Ann Tucker, excuse me, you go to the channel and you click on lives, and you'll see the most recent live is a whole discussion about the program. So my website, AnnTucker.com, is /soul convergence. That is where you can sign up for the program. So I hope to see you there. And here we go. Please take a nice deep breath, and we will begin with the original channeling. Blessed ones, I am with you once again. We are speaking today on the topic of your forfeiting your worth, on how that which you are is often discarded and set behind you as something not of profit, not of value, how you have often set aside what is in fact your greatest treasures. And I bring this forward to you now in the greatest of timings, what is most important in your progress forward, for you to know and understand about how you will arrive into the new state of consciousness. For the endowment that you have been given, that which has shaken you, that which has disheveled you, that which has made life hardest, must now come full circle and come back to you as a form of requirement, as a form of endowment to be embraced. This is not an easy process, and I understand that those things that wound us are often the things we hate. They are the things that we would wish to disappear. But as the time is shortening, as that which dissolves before you becomes increasingly prominent, and that which begins to appear on the horizon, now is the time to allow these parts of yourselves to rise into focus and to see them in truth, to see them for what they are, which is a gift, which is a blessing, which is a pathway for you to a greater expansion of who you are. And we will talk about this because I have, in the depth of my own soul, a concrete understanding of how our worries lead us, of how the greatest and most treacherous of our mistakes guide us in their own way to something that we could not have expected. And I wish for you to feel the same, to feel in your own hearts that places where you have fallen down or been hurt or been tried are in fact the doorways to something much greater. How can you attain this, achieve this, particularly when the timing is short, when the moment is upon us now for your own inhale, for your breath to expand inside of you, to take in more of what are your future blessings? I would say to reach down into the pit, into the depth of what is aching, to take a moment now to close your eyes and to expand your heart, to hold your focus there at the part inside of your body, inside of your physicality where the heart sits, and to wait a moment and to pause without pressure, without insistence, and to let yourself regulate that you are now internal. And as the body stirs itself underneath your presence, it will come about and show you now what is available to see. And what is seen in the beginning is that which is most ready and most available, that which is most easy. And so I ask for you to take a pause and take a moment and deepen your investigation and take your heart opening just a little further and sinking down into the deeper, softer, more delicate tissues. There is a space within where you might find something hidden. And imagine there you find in the depth of you a cavern, slow and easy as you descend, a cavern covered by a lid. And the lid is circular, and the lid is dark. And I ask for you to simply place your hand upon it, not with asking or insistence, but with waiting and with patience, and to know yourself to be holding here an endowment of pain and suffering which you have not yet released, and to hold yourselves in this stillness in a pose of self-love without insistence. Do not order it to open. Do not ask it. Simply be with it. Be with your own struggle. Be with that which has not been ready to be released, and do not ask it to do what it does not want to do. Simply sit beside it and acknowledge its presence, and know you are on the precipice of what is a deepening of your understanding of your soul. Stay in the moment of that reluctance to be revealed and ask no more. And see instead not what is within that cavern, but instead what is within your reluctance. And be at peace. Be in the peace of acceptance of your reluctance, as if it was another you sitting on top of that cavern, on top of that lid, forcing it closed, hiding in a shadow. And do not ask for a change. Simply hold your own hand and sit in the awareness that something is hidden, and be at peace with it. Be accepting. Show your softening. And slowly, as you guide yourself to this space of loving what is at your core, loving that part of you that feels you must hide, feels you must set aside some part of you. It is this part of you that must be accepted. and give it now the fullness of your attention, not in an asking or an insistence, but simply in an observation. To notice how hard it is, how hard you've been working to undermine what is hidden, to sneak around what is hidden, how difficult it has been to keep it enclosed inside this cavern. Notice the struggle it has been, the fear. Yes, see the fear, for there's fear here, fear within the knowledge that it could come out, and that you are merely one person trying your best to lock it away. And be with this fear now, not in judgment or in a desire to change, but simply be with it. And notice how hard you have been working. And now hold yourself in appreciation, in loving acceptance of this desire to restrain a part of you. Love that part of you that fears. Do not ask it to change. Simply acknowledge, and love, and soften a little deeper, and soften a little deeper still. And here, as you are holding in the peace of your acceptance, that part of you who holds things back begins to feel a new kind of freedom that may be in the heart of one such as yourself, who is so loving and so accepting. Maybe there is forgiveness. Maybe there is an ease where suffering does not count its tax. Maybe there's a place inside of you where judgment does not exist. Take a breath of fresh air and breathe in a new future where ease knows you and the relative suffering of your past seems to dissolve as if it was nothing. And that part of you who has known only the fear of what is underneath begins to forget their task and let go of their resolve and open to the potential of what is love, what is self-acceptance, what is self-forgiveness, and forgiveness of all that is. In the ease of this moment, as you begin to embrace more of yourself, opening doorways to what has passed, what is now moving through you, is a greater field of your relationship to the divine, a greater opening of potential for your own light to shine into this world and this universe. And breath, deepen your breath, breathing in a new future, positive and full of potential. And that all of you, even that part of you that was reluctance, let it ease in the flow of what is a more unified state of acceptance, self-acceptance. No more self-reliance is needed here. No sense that it is you against a world, you against a past. You are all now at peace with what is and what wants to become. For that which is inside you was never an illness. It was never treachery or wounding. It was just an ache to be seen, an ache to be wanted, to be loved, and the ache from inside. It was wanting to be loved by you. And as your heart opens in this acceptance, more of you blossoms from the inside. And that wounding, which never was, softens into an embrace of light that comes from within you. And you are all at once into the unified field of your own consciousness. And such a blessing you are and have always been. Treasure yourself, for you are unique and you are made to shine into a world the greatness of what makes you unique. I bless you and say goodbye. So welcome back. Yeah. What I love about this message is that you think it's going to go in the direction of healing what is inside the cavern underneath what's underneath the lid, and that I think, even like in my early journey as a healer, I always thought that was the goal, is get to the thing. And and you would be channeling and trying to figure out, like, what is the thing, and you'd be trying to look in and try to see the past life or see the experience in this life, or trying to read, like, what's the wound. And here she turns it totally on its ear, and she doesn't even try to open what's underneath there. She doesn't even say, like, don't even look at it. She's like, notice the part of you that's holding it down. And that is where she focuses. And that is genius, right? Genius. So that is what I love most about this meditation and I feel like when she says it, and she doesn't say it, she shows us, which is of course much more powerful. And I love that this is how she teaches. She shows us, she walks us through it and lets us feel for ourselves, that part of ourselves that's doing the hard work of pushing it down, the heavy work of denying how difficult it is. And then she turns it one more turn at the end, which is like sends me, which is where she says that part of you, it was just an ache to be seen, right? And what was it trying to be seen by? By you. That is like, oh, there's my tears, it's like, oh my gosh, all along, it was all we wanted was to be allowed to be free, is self-acknowledgement, self-acceptance. That's all we ever wanted. Every part of ourselves has just wanted that. So yeah, just incredible to me. And I feel like it's like loving. Yes, exactly. Sarah, loving, encouraging. And then Jay says, I felt like I was bringing a very sad part of myself to the light of truth. Gorgeous. Yes, absolutely. Kelsey's saying, can I do this daily and prep for soul convergence? Yes, 100%. Yeah, that's a great idea. Tears and tears from Joshua. Love it. Love it. Like it's not a party till someone cries. Thank you, Joshua, for bringing in the party. My heart started beating really fast at the beginning, but pushed through and it let up. I love it. Yeah. Oh my gosh, you guys. Yeah. Good time. You're saying excellent message. I love it, you guys. So, and you're saying you feel like soul convergence is so timely at this time, even more excited to get started. Yes, Denise, I feel it too. Yeah, there couldn't be, I mean, like as we're heading into what we're heading into in terms of getting closer and closer to the shift and these moments of shift, it's just going to bring in so much richness and depth to our experience. Yeah. And you're saying a crazy way of reaching peace, but it works so well. Love it, Pamela. Yes, totally. So let's break it down a little bit and talk about the pieces of it. Because I think it's a very clear message, but I kind of want to pull our attention and our focus to these bits here where she does explain and show us, because really the message is here, to me, I take it as, how do we deal with our fear, and to understand that at the root of everything, like everything that attracts our attention, everything that triggers us in the world, it triggers us, and which means that it brings up an emotional response, and that response is often fear, anxiety, or whatever, anger, whatever it is. It only happens if it's responding to a wound that's already inside of us, something that's underneath that lid, right? There's something underneath the lid that is trying to get out, and so it's resonating with something out in reality and trying to get our attention. It's bumping up against the lid, and it makes us have these feelings, fear, anxiety, whatever. And so how do we heal it? And she's saying, heal it. Her method, her saying that she's suggesting, which is, as you can feel in this experience, it's very powerful. She says, don't worry about what's in there. Don't worry about what's in the cavern. She's saying, instead, focus on the feeling inside of you, that part of you that says, I can't let it out. That part of you that says, this piece of me, I have to deny it. And if we focus on that actually dissolves, because the only reason we have anything in that cavern at all, the only reason we have anything underneath the lid, is because we are holding it in place, right? It's there because we are tamping it down. And if we can relax that part of us, it softens all of it. And then all the stuff that's in there, that whatever's trying to bump up against the lid, just dissolves into nothing, right? Just amazing, amazing. And I feel the truth of this, and I've seen the truth of this in healing. I've seen it so much. So it's like it's just I just never thought of it, but I love how she brings it forward and shows it so clearly. So in the beginning, she says, blessed ones, I'm with you once again. We are speaking today on the topic of your forfeiting of your worth, right? Of how that which you are often, of how that which you are is often discarded and set behind you as something not of profit, not of value. How often you have set aside what is in fact your greatest treasures. So this is that idea that the things that we don't want to feel, the things that were too difficult in our past, we tend to tamp them down, right? And avoid feeling them. So I was absolutely guilty of this until I began my healing journey, is I was able to completely move outside of my body and not feel my feelings at all. And as a matter of fact, one of the first things I had to work on as I began my journey was learning how to feel my feelings, because I couldn't feel them at all. I couldn't feel, like I would have this vague sense of like, oh, I feel bad, but I couldn't put my finger on it. And it would take me a really long time to process things, because I had just built so much insulation around my feelings because they just were too painful for me. And I just, tamp them down. And then she says, and as I bring this forward to you now in the greatest, she says, and I bring this forward to you now in the greatest of timings. What is most important in your progress forward for you to know and understand about how you will arrive into the new state of consciousness, for the endowment that you've been given, that which has shaken you, that which has disheveled you, that which made life harder, must now come full circle and come back to you as a form of requirement, as a form of endowment to be embraced. So what I think she's saying here is she's talking about, like, the timing of this is really important. The energy has shifted. The new reality has already started to be created. It's just the beginnings of it, right? It's not full fledged like the reality we are in, but it is like starting as of like December timeframe. My understanding is it was sort of begun. The first initial weavings of that have started. So we are really right there on the bridge, on the brink of being able to participate in that more fully. And so, but she's saying that, so the timing of this, super important. And she says, but in order to get there, those woundings that we have pushed down have to now come full circle. And she says it's a form of requirement, a form of endowment that must be embraced. And what she's talking about here is we have to achieve unity inside. And the reason why that's so important is that part of the foundations of what makes the new state of consciousness, we start with unity inside, and then we are able from that to create unity outside, right? The outside is generated from what we are on the inside. So we have to come to peace with all parts of ourselves so that we can come to peace with everything that's outside. So this is why it's like this full circle. We have to get to unity in interior. And we don't have to be perfect, by the way. We don't have to get this 100% to make the shift. And the flash of light will come, and it will give us that final boost to help us move into that ultimate state of consciousness. But no, the more that we can do now, the better it is. The brighter and deeper and richer our soul becomes. And she says, this is not an easy process. And she understands. She says, I understand that those things that wound us are often the things we hate. They are the things that we would wish to disappear. But as the time is shortening, and as that which dissolves before you becomes increasingly prominent, and that which comes begins to appear on the horizon, now is the time to allow these parts of yourself to rise into focus and to see them in truth. To see them for what they are, which is a gift, which is a blessing, which is a pathway for you to a greater expansion of who you are. So this is really about reframing and repackaging the things that we are resistant to. And I think she brings this up first, because one of the obstacles we come across as we work in self-healing is sometimes it is not uncommon for someone to get into a relationship with what they're trying to heal, where they take a stand of correctness, where they say that person is bad and I am wounded, right? They hurt me. And then the worse they can make that person, like the more they can turn them into a monster, the more validated they feel, at least they want to feel. It doesn't always work. That's the problem. But it brings them more and more into like, I am this wounded, right? I am this wounded. And it becomes a thing where it's like a part of self-definition. And I remember, you guys, when I was going through my first divorce, I was really struggling with my feelings, and I felt terrible, I felt so awful. I was angry, I was sad, I was everything. All I wanted to do was forgive. Like I was like, if I could forgive everything, then I know I would feel better. And that was all I wanted, but I just could not figure out how to get to forgiveness. I kept trying. I was like, if I think about it this way, if I think about it that way. I remember driving around the parking lot at my gym, just like struggling with this and figuring out, how can I forgive it? How can I? And it finally dawned on me, it came in that it was like, I kind of went through the process of just saying, well, maybe my path of forgiveness is to just say that that person was just broken, that they're just terrible, and that is why I feel this bad. And then I realized that if I make that person into a monster, that gives them untold power, right? Just like the monsters in our dreams. If I make that person so bad, it doesn't make me feel any better. If anything, it just puts me into that position of resistance I am holding the relationship in place where I am a victim and that person is the perpetrator, which does not get me to forgiveness, right? At all, in any way. It just gets me to a place where I'm stuck in this terrible dynamic. So that didn't work. So then I finally realized the only way to get to forgiveness was to take the power out of that dynamic entirely. And that's what we're doing here, is to reframe it as a gift, which is what she's talking about here, where she says to see them for what they are, which is a gift, which is a blessing, which is a pathway for you to a greater expansion of who you are. So this was my aha moment in the parking lot at the gym that day, was if I could get to a space where I saw that that experience was bringing me forward in some way. And now here I am, decades later, I can look back on that and say, wow, am I grateful for that experience? Because that was my waking up. That was my waking up moment. I had to have my entire structure of my world shattered so that I would be brought to the space where I began to question all of my assumptions. And if it hadn't happened, I might still be there. I might still totally be asleep, right? I needed something that destructive to come into my life, to break apart all of my assumptions, all of my, what I thought, the path of life that I thought I was on, right? I had to be shaken free from everything that I thought I needed so that I could finally discover that I am all that I need. And it was a journey, right? It's been a long journey, getting stronger with every year, stronger with every year. But that first choice, which was to just to take it out of the position of making the other person wrong, where I am in fact where it seemed like somehow I was trying to validate that this had happened to me, and the question in your mind is, how could this have happened to me? And I was struggling with that. And when I finally gave it over and said, okay, that I don't have to like what happened. I don't even have to like the person, but I can look at our higher selves and I can say, our higher selves planned this for me, right? And I planned this, and his higher self planned this. And guess what? He had to come in and he had to be someone maybe he didn't even want to be. Like, nobody wants to be the bad guy. No one. Who here would want to come to earth and be like, yeah, I'll be the schmuck? Nobody. Nobody wants that feeling. Because we have to look in the mirror and see ourselves, right? And we all know ourselves. We know where we've been. Nobody wants to do that. But this person, higher self, this was a choice, higher self to higher self. And this person came in and played a role in my life that broke me out of my sleep. And for that, I'm infinitely grateful. And I can feel that in my heart. Like, all I want for that person is good things. That's all I want for that person. And because I recognized the role they played in my life, which was enormously of service. And that's the place I had to get to, was recognizing that all of that happened was a gift. And then once I started with the kernel of that, I was able to build on that and build on that and get to the space that I finally realized that I don't need anything outside of myself, that I am everything, that I am, as I said before, infinite zucchinis. And it's referring to a dream I had where I was seeing scarcity, and then I looked inside and all I had was infinite zucchinis coming out of me. And yes, I really like zucchini. So anyways, yeah. So that is how I read that first paragraph. And I know this get you guys deep. We always go deep though. When do we not go deep? I mean, honestly. So, okay. So then she goes on This is not an easy, and then she goes on to say, and we will talk about this because I have, in the depth of my own soul, a concrete understanding of how our worries lead us, of how the greatest and most treacherous of our mistakes guides us in their own way to something we could not have expected, right? And that is that learning about ourselves. And she says, and I wish for you to feel the same, to feel in your own hearts that the places where you have fallen down or been hurt or been tried are, in fact, the doorways to something much greater. And I know that's an easy thing to say, and it's a very different thing to feel it. But the feeling of it is literally just 1 minute away. Like it's that close. Like you can move into that in this experience. You could move to that. And then she says, how can you achieve this, particularly when the timing is short? Like this thing is, are we pressured? Do you feel pressured? Do you feel like, I got to do this tomorrow? How can I do it? And she says, when the moment is upon us now for your own inhale, for your own inhale, for your breath to expand inside of you, to take in more of what are your future blessings. So that is the thing, is we all feel like we want to get there. We want to get there yesterday. Like we want to be in the new state of consciousness right now. We don't want to still be messing around with all this stuff, but we still have to until take advantage of this time that we have now, is what she's saying. She says, I would reach down into the pit, into the depth of what is aching. So this is the process. And so here she now begins the actual process where she's going to guide us into an experience. And she says to take a moment now to close your eyes and to expand your heart, to hold your focus there at the part inside of your body, inside of your physicality where the heart sits, and to wait a moment and to pause without pressure, without insistence, and to let yourself regulate that you are now internal. So this is really interesting how she guides this. And she's trying to say that your awareness there's like two distinct things happening here. There's your awareness and there's the awareness of the body. So she's saying, bring your awareness down to the heart space and let your body regulate. The awareness of your body now recognize that it's being seen. So here's where we start. So your awareness is there. The body begins to recognize that your presence, it has your awareness. And then she says, and as the body stirs itself underneath your presence, right? So think of your presence is magic. Your presence is divine. Your presence is God. And the body is all of a sudden being seen by God. And that's what's happening here. And what happens? The body is, oh my gosh, you're seeing me. Okay. So it will come about and show you now what is available to see. So the body opens and shows you what's right there on the surface. And then she says, and what is seen in the beginning is that which is most ready and most available, that which is most easy. And so I ask for you to take a pause and take a moment and deepen your investigation and take your heart opening just a little further. And this is that idea that if the body is willing to open and let you look inside, okay, sit with the body and let your body know, I'm willing to go deeper. You don't have to just show me what's on the surface. I want to know what's underneath. I'll sit with you and see what you will show me. And then the body opens a little deeper. Right? And then she says, and sinking down into the deeper, softer, more delicate tissues, there is a space within where you might find something hidden, right? And imagine there you find in the depth of you a cavern, right? Slow and easy as you descend, a cavern covered by a lid, and the lid is circular and it is dark. And so we have this experience. We're now in this part that isn't not necessarily on the surface. It's a deeper level of yourself that doesn't always get shown, right? And here you see this space, and we don't yet know what's underneath it. And then she says, and I ask for you to simply place your hand upon it, not with asking or insistence, but with waiting and with patience, and to know yourself to be holding here an endowment of pain and suffering, which you have not yet released. And so what I love about this is you could use this experience again and again and again. And know that anytime you come down, you don't have to name what's in the cavern or underneath the lid. Just know that there's something there. And if you just say, okay, there's something here, and I am in the experience of sitting with it, knowing that there is something underneath. It could be anything. Let the body's wisdom, let the body's wisdom, let the angels know to come to the surface at this moment, right? And so you're just sitting with it. And then she says, and then we're not going to take the lid off, which is what I would have expected. I would have expected we'd go through some sort of contortion where we're trying to remove the lid and suck out this, clean out the sump pump or whatever, clean out the system. But that's not what we're doing. We're just letting the lid stay on. We're not even thinking about that. She says, I would ask for you to simply place your hand upon it, right? Not with asking or insistence, but with waiting and with patience. And I see this almost like, imagine that you're with someone who's moving through something and you give them a hand of reassurance. That's the hand we're talking about here, a hand of that where there's no words here. It's literally just to let them know you're there, and you're there in presence with their suffering. And that's it, right? That's what we're doing here. So you place your hand upon it, like in presence, and not with asking or insistence, but with waiting and with patience, and to know yourself to be holding here an endowment of pain and suffering which you have not yet released. And then she says, and hold yourself in the stillness in a pose of self-love without insistence. Do not order it to open. Do not ask it, right? Simply be with it. Be with your own struggle. And here's where she shifts it, right? Now we're no longer focused on what's underneath the lid. She says, be with your own struggle. Be with that which has not been ready to be released, and do not ask it to do what it does not want to do. Right? Just be with the struggle itself, the struggle to keep the lid on. That's what we are being with, the struggle to keep the lid on. So then she says, simply sit beside it and acknowledge its presence, and know you are on the precipice of what is a deepening of your understanding of your soul. So this is all we're after. We're not trying to change ourselves. We're not trying to get rid of something. We're trying to deepen our understanding of what we're going through. So stay in the moment, she says, of that reluctance to be revealed, and ask no more. And see instead not what is within the cavern, but instead what is within your reluctance, right? And be at peace. So this is powerful, this shift. I love this because it always has been. Like, we get so focused on the story, and this is taking our focus entirely off the story and putting it on what is actually happening, which is that we are constricting ourselves inside, right? There's a part of us that's holding us back, and that is what we're going to focus on. So then she says, instead, what is within your reluctance? We're focusing on our own reluctance, and be at peace. So we're not fighting with that reluctance. We're noticing it. We're giving it our presence to our reluctance. We're just being with it without judgment, without the need to change it. We're letting it be. Then she says, be in the peace of acceptance of your reluctance as if it was another you sitting on top of that cavern, on top of that lid, forcing it closed, hiding in a shadow. And do not ask for change. Simply hold your own hand. So imagine that it's you, like there's two versions of you, right? There's the you that is the you that your God presence, you that is your consciousness, and then there's this internal you, this maybe this older version of you that was present whenever this hurt was created. And that version of you is sitting on that lid saying, don't let this out. It's painful. There's a scary monster under this lid. And all you're going to do at this point is you're just going to hold that version of you. You're going to hold their hand, right? And just sit with them, not to try to change them, but to be in presence with them, and to recognize how hard they're working, and to recognize their reluctance and their suffering, right? And so, forcing it closed, hiding in a shadow, and do not ask for change. Simply hold your own hand, so holding their hand, a hand of that part of you, right? And sit in the awareness of that something is hidden, and be at peace with it. Be accepting. So like this is that thing where if someone thinks you're going to take something from it, they hang on to it really, really tight, like you watch, like a person who's scared in an urban area clinging to their handbag, it's like, someone's going to steal my purse. And then when they feel safe, it's like all of a sudden it just hangs by their side, and they're not worried about it anymore. And there's so much less tension in their system. And that's the idea. We want to not make this person, this other part of ourselves, feel like we're going to rip away the lid and make them deal with it, because that's going to make them clench down. So it's really important that in this moment we really try to hold the feeling of just being at peace, right? Of just not trying to change it, just sitting in the awareness that it's there. Like, yes, we see that. Yeah, we see the lid. We know there's something underneath there, and it's okay. Like, don't worry about it. Be accepting. Show your softening, right? Show your softening. And slowly, as you guide yourself to the space of loving what is at your core, loving that part of you that feels you must hide, right? Feels you must set aside some part of you. It is this part of you that must be accepted, and give it now the fullness of your attention. So total shift. We're no longer trying to heal the garbage that's underneath, the stuff that's in there, that I shouldn't call it the garbage, the learning moments that are in the cavern, that under the lid. We are instead focusing on this part of you that feels that for some reason what's under there is bad, and everything that they've gone through. And we're just holding them in acceptance that this Because here's the thing, whatever's underneath the lid is a part of them. And that's why they are the ones, that part of you is what needs acceptance. So then she goes on to say, not in an asking or an insistence, but simply an observation to notice how hard it is, how hard you've been working to undermine what is hidden, to sneak around what is hidden, how difficult it has been to keep it enclosed inside this cavern. Notice the struggle it has been. So this is as your conscious self, this is what we are holding, is acknowledging, right, that part of you that's been struggling to try to keep this down. And the fear, she says, yes, see the fear. So here we are with the fear. So there's fear here, fear within the knowledge that it could come out. So this is like every fear we have could be underneath this lid. And you may want to do this many times. Anytime a fear comes up, anytime you get triggered in the world by something that gives you fear, you could do this exercise and come back to this and to recognize that there's a part of you that is scared of, there's something that's being triggered by this fear that's underneath the lid. And this is going to be something about you. And it could be that a fear of scarcity. It could be a fear of judgment. It could be it could be any of our triggers, right? But it's underneath the lid, and there's a part of you that's like, don't let this out. It's triggered. I can feel it rumbling in there. And all we have to do is to come in presence, not with what's underneath, but with a part of you that feels that you got to fight it. And then she says, fear within the knowledge that it could come out, and that you are merely one person trying your best to lock it away. And be with this fear now, not in judgment or in a desire to change, but simply be with it. And notice how hard you've been working. Right? And think about how much easier that is too, to love that part of yourself that's working so hard to try to hide these things or push them away, versus to love what's underneath the lid, right? Much easier. And now she says, and now hold yourself in appreciation, in loving acceptance of this desire to restrain a part of you. Love that part of you that fears. Do not ask it to change. Simply acknowledge the love, and soften a little deeper, and soften a little deeper still. And then she goes on to say, and I highlighted this section, she says, and here, as you are holding in the peace of your acceptance, that part of you who holds things back, begins to feel a new kind of freedom. So here's where the transition is made, is that your awareness, your observation is so powerful that it is healing. And this part of you that has been working so hard to repress something, fearing that it would get out, when you sit with that part of you in acceptance, it all of a sudden starts to, that resistance, that struggle starts to dissolve, right? And that part of you that has been working so hard to keep back a part of what it is, a part of its experience, a part of it, I say it, because it could be your infant self, it could be your childhood self, we don't know. Doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter. That's what's beautiful about this, but what we're focusing on is that it's a part of you. And this part of here, it's as you give it presence, it is able to find in your acceptance an acceptance of itself. Right? And so that is what allows it to start to let go of its resistance to what is under the lid. So you give that part of yourself acceptance, and that allows that part of yourself to accept itself. So it says, that part of you who holds things back begins to feel a new kind of freedom. That maybe in the heart of one such as yourself, who is so loving and so accepting, maybe there is forgiveness. Maybe there is an ease where suffering does not count its tax. Maybe there's a place inside of you where judgment does not exist, right? This is so beautiful. And then she says, take a breath of fresh air and breathe in a new future where ease knows you, and the relative suffering of your past seems to dissolve as if it was nothing. So she's like, lean into that feeling, right? Let it flow, let it flow with the breath. And she says, and that part of you who has known only the fear of what is underneath begins to forget their task and let go of their resolve and open to the potential of what is love. So it's literally like, I wouldn't call it distraction, but it's almost like the glow of the love is more. And so it just dissolves the feeling or the need they feel that they have to still hang on and to resist and to protect against what is underneath the lid. It's almost like the love overpowers all of it. And they can just start to forget about it and let it go. And the only thing that's holding that system in place is that part of you that's in resistance. That's it. So if they can stop resisting, whoosh, off it goes. So, and then she says, and let go of their resolve and open to the potential of what is love, what is self acceptance, what is self forgiveness, and forgiveness of all that is. Next paragraph, she says, in the ease of this moment, as you begin to embrace more of yourself, opening doorways to what is past and what is now moving through you is a greater field of your relationship to the divine, a greater opening of potential for your own light to shine into this world and this universe. And then she says, and breath, deepen your breath, breathing in a new future, positive and full of potential. And let all of you, even that part of you that was reluctance, let it ease in the flow of what is a more unified state of acceptance, self-acceptance. So this is that part where you're just letting it, at this point, you're just relaxing and letting the energy flow and trusting that this part of you has accepted that there's this new ease, this greater light flowing through you. It's just part of like all of you saying, okay, I have shifted. No, and then she goes, and I love this next paragraph. She says, no more self-reliance is needed here. No sense that it is you against a world, you against a past. So interesting, because think about how in our world, in our culture, self-reliance is seen as a quality to be admired. How we are congratulated or praised for our self-reliance. How it's considered to be strength. Like, you've got, you can do it all by yourself. Like how that's a strength. But what it does is it self-reliance is a form of separation. It's saying that I'm the only thing I can count on. Right? I'm the only one who's going to keep me safe. And that puts us in that position of resistance against what is underneath the lid. And so she's saying that's not the future we're moving to. The future we're moving to is one where it is integration with the all, right? And it's not like you're losing your sense of self, but you become this deeply interconnected being where you are infinitely supported at all times. And this is really the pathway out of suffering. Right? No more self-reliance is needed here. No sense that it is you against a world. And notice against, right? Against a world, not within the world or with the world. No more sense that it is you against a world, you against a past, right? And she says, you are all, like all parts of you, you are all now at peace with what is and what wants to become. For that which is inside you was never an illness, was never treachery or wounding. And this is literal. Like, I think this applies to even like physical illness. What is inside you was never an illness. Like, we have categorized these things as something to be defeated, something to be fought. And like, what if all along what has been required was your own divinity, was this sense of self-acceptance and self-love, of loving what we think of as illness, giving it our love, giving it permission, right, to be felt, and letting that expand inside of us and not fearing it, like letting go of the resistance. And I will tell you, I have seen this before where I remember I've seen it a bunch of times, but one that really jumps out in my mind was I was on one time we were doing a live broadcast and there was somebody in the chat and they put in the chat, they said that her husband was in the hospital and she was asking if the angels could send love to her husband. I think it was like in a peace bathing session or something. And immediately I got an image from the angels of her husband in the hospital and they were showing me that there was an angel standing right next to her husband. And at first I'm like, oh, there's already an angel with him. And then I saw the angel just sitting there with his hands behind his back, just kind of going like, I can't do anything. And what he was showing me is that the guy was locked in this resistant relationship to his illness where he was like, I shouldn't be here and I shouldn't be sick. And this is not, he was fighting, but in a way that was like angry against the illness, and it left no space for healing. Like the angel couldn't even get in. And that's what the angel was showing me. It's like, nope, I literally cannot get in. He won't let me in. And so it just was showing me this idea of like that, and we talk about it, the language, like fight breast cancer, fight, whatever leukemia, whatever the disease is, that we're going to fight it. And, fight injustice, anytime we fight things, that's why I love, like there's a new languaging around protest where they've actually rephrased it. And some of you may be involved in this and have the new wording, but it's not fighting against something. It's like embracing more love, coming into the situation with envisioning a different future, or loving, it's giving more love to the situation. And that is powerful. Like, that's the new future. That's where we're headed. Yeah. So it's really, really amazing. And then here she says, I love this part. She says, you are now at peace with what is and what wants to become, for that which is inside you was never an illness, was never treachery or wounding. It was just an ache to be seen. Right? That's all. An ache to be seen. And who did it want to get seen by? An ache to be wanted, to be loved. And the ache from inside, it was wanting to be loved by you. So this is what she means, and what the angels mean when they say that we have all that we need, right? That we are all that we need, that all the parts of ourself that are inside, that are in violent opposition, to anything in our past, anything that is fighting us from the inside, all that it ever wanted. That's why, like, someone saying they're sorry is nice, but it doesn't heal, right? It doesn't fix it. The only thing that fixes it is when we accept, when we decide that we love ourselves despite what we've been through, that we love ourselves with everything that we've been through, with all of our bumps and all of our bruises, and we start to see them as the blessings that taught us, that expanded us, that held our heart in a new position. We were able to feel things differently, and that it opens us up to more compassion and to an experience of compassionate living, where we can embrace other people more deeply because we've been there, right? That's what we start to experience. And yeah, so the thing that it wants, the part of you that is in resistance, the person it needs love from is you. Wow, right? I loved that. And she goes on to say, and as your heart opens in this acceptance, more of you blossoms from the inside, and that wounding which never was softens into an embrace of light that comes from within you. And you are all at once into the unified field of your own consciousness. So powerful. Then she says, and such a blessing you are and have always been. Treasure yourself, for you are unique, and you are made to shine into a world the greatness of what makes you unique. And she says, I bless you, and say goodbye. Yeah. A very powerful message and a very powerful process, which we can, like I said, use it again and again. I think this is an amazing antidote to fear. And an antidote to anything we're struggling with is to just go through. It's very simple. Just go through this very simple process, and she guides us through it. So you can return to this anytime and listen to it again, and just go through this simple process of recognizing the thing we're trying to heal is not the event, right? It's not even the illness. It's not even whatever is going on inside the physical body. It's not even that. It is our resistance to it. It's our fear of it. And that's the part that needs to be seen. Think of it, how hard are you working right now to resist? How hard are you working right now to just pull through, right? To struggle. That is the part of you that needs to be loved, right? And softened. Yeah. I mean, I feel like this is like magic. Magic. So, okay, you guys, thank you so much for being here today, for sharing this amazing experience together. More than a message, it was an experience. And like I said, I really encourage you to come back and to use this, like anytime fear comes up, to come back and use this as a process to, like, you don't even have to focus on what's under the lid. Just focus on the fact that you're resisting it, and love that part of yourself, and soften. It will help you to move through the fear in a really beautiful way. So what a gorgeous, gorgeous tool we've been given by Isla, the mother of creation. Have a beautiful rest of your weekend, you guys. Sending you tons of love, and I'll see you next Friday live. Bye, you guys.